Welcome back to Numbers and Narratives. I'm here with Owen Terry today. Here to unpack some Premier League action. There was a couple of good games. Brighton versus Man United. Well, that was only good because Man United lost. But Aston Villa versus Arsenal. Wolves versus Chelsea. And we'll also look ahead to the Man United Liverpool game next week. But we're going to start the show off with Owen's Dumb or Not. Here he's got something. He's had this one in the works for a while.
No. That's for next week. This one was based off what happened in your weekend. What did you see this weekend on Sunday? Sunday Arvo?
Sunday Arvo, I had the pleasure of, first of all, watching the St Kilda game, praying for results so Freo could make top 8. And I was actually enraged with about 5 minutes to go and turned the St Kilda game off because I thought it was done.
Oh, really?
And I was messaging my girlfriend. I was like, yeah, Freo aren't making the finals because St Kilda are going to lose. And then literally like 2 minutes later, I get this notification on my phone saying like St Kilda has somehow won. And I was like ecstatic. Like my mood went from 0 to 100. I was so happy. And then I was like, yes, I got my whole afternoon to look forward to now. I can watch the Freo game, which I did, watch the Freo game. Started pretty promising. They had a pretty good first quarter. And then it was not an enjoyable experience seeing them throw another lead away. But yeah.
Well, do you know at the start of the game, if both teams agreed to a draw, it would have meant Port would have made top 2 and Freo would have made the 8.
I saw that on Instagram like half time. I was scrolling through and I was like, oh shit, it's too late for that now.
Yeah. Well, the reason I bring that up is because do you know that that's actually happened in football before?
I'm not surprised. I feel like I've heard something about it happening, but I couldn't tell you which team it was. It's
called the disgrace of Gajon. I don't know how to pronounce it. But essentially, West Germany were playing against Austria. And if Austria got a draw or Austria won, then Germany were out.
Yeah.
And if Germany won by more than one goal, if they won by like 3 goals, I think it was, then Austria out. And either result would have meant Algeria went through. And essentially, West Germany were playing Austria, and West Germany scored the first goal. So both teams just started, whenever they got the ball, would just pass the ball around the back and without any press, and they were just content to keep the scores the way they were, so they both got through.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
And then there was a West German commentator who refused to keep commentating. Because
really?
he was just like, no, this is a disgrace. And then there was an Austrian commentator who said, please switch off. Don't listen. This, we don't want this to get any more publicity that it has. Like, don't promote this.
Yeah.
This crap. So that's my Dom or Not for the week. What are your thoughts about a team? Pretty much sacrificing their reputation to guarantee they get through. Is that dumb or not? Should have Freo and Port Adelaide come to a handshake agreement and said, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine?
No, I don't like it. I think it's dumb. I think it's like it goes against everything to do with like the spirit of the game, the spirit of sport in general. It's like when the fixtures are released at the start of the season, you kind of count on every game being worth something, right? So for a team just to like completely not even try to win the game, and when another team might be depending on you that another team for a result, I just think it's so like as a Freo fan, oh my god, like in the moment I probably would have been like, yeah, let's do this. But a couple of days later, you'd probably look back and be like, yeah, that was a terrible decision.
Yeah,
like, it's not worth it in the long run to destroy your reputation like that.
In lunchtime sport at high school, it used to be if you finished first, you had to play third, but if you finished second, you'd play fourth.
Yeah.
So I used to make my teams throw the last game of the season, so finish second sometimes. So
look, lunchtime games is a bit different.
Yeah, look, I was willing to sacrifice my reputation nonetheless.
He had no reputation to begin with. So.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah, I don't think the older age group liked me as is. I think it'd be a bit annoying without pulling all these stunts. But
what do you think about it though? Do you think it's a dumb or not?
Well, besides the fact that I did it, if anyone else does it, yeah, don't do it. Dumb. Hate it.
Hate it.
Yeah, would have. Imagine that if you were watching the game and both teams were just kicking around the back and accepting a draw. You would
useless.
You'd be upset.
Like, one of the primary purposes of sport is to entertain
And the unknown.
And so to see a team just not even trying to score, stupid.
Yeah, well, at least that was in 1982, and there haven't been
Hasn't
that many.
happened again.
Not really.
Yeah. All right. Shall we move on to Brighton, Man United?
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. I didn't watch this one, but I was checking the score. I was down south, and I was checking the score mainly because of I convinced my girlfriend Beth to uncaptain Welbeck in her fantasy team.
We talked smack about him, you, Debenham, and I, a few weeks ago at the preview.
We did, didn't we? And he scored. I think he got a goal and assist in the first game. And my girlfriend Beth had him as captain, and she was stoked about that. And I was like, "Look, he's not going to score again. Like, take him off captain." And she listened to me. And then I get the notification that Welbeck scored, and I was like, "Oh, Beth, you're not going to be happy with this."
Yeah.
But thankfully, she captained Son instead. It's Son instead who got 2 goals, so it all worked out in the end. But yeah, what did you make of this game? Man United ended up losing. João Pedro scoring a 95th minute winner from a header.
Well, we'll give a Brighton mention a bit later, but probably best to start with United because that's where the main storyline is. And I think there's a lot of negatives that you could take away that United have lost so early in the season to Brighton, who were a good side on paper, but you'd still expect United to win with all the money and whatever else they have at their disposal, the pool power. But from what I saw, the mistakes that United made were a bit. Sure, they were pretty amateur, conceding. The second goal, particularly for me, where João Pedro was left all alone, with no one in like a 5-metre radius of him to head the ball home when the ball was crossed. And then the first goal was Harry Maguire was just not a metre the wrong side, and it meant that Mitoma was able to play in Danny Welbeck for an easy goal. So for me, but besides from that, United played pretty well, I thought, and they're different mistakes. And I think that's important because last year we kept seeing United making the same mistakes over and over with teams just finding it far too easy to play through them. It was so transitional. It was going one end to the other.
Hole in the middle of the field.
In the middle of the field. Their press was hopeless. Yeah. First half, their press was really good. But then Mason Mount picked up an injury and then they weren't as good in the second half at pressing. But that had been a weakness of Manchester United, and Brighton are one of the better teams at playing the ball out the back. Yeah. So that's definitely a positive that the press was pretty good, at least for a half. And yeah, the defensive mistakes were just dumb ones. And I think Brighton actually won on XG, even if you include the Garnacho shot, which ended up essentially the Garnacho shot was where Bruno Fernandes played the ball across goal. Garnacho had pretty much an open goal to aim for.
Directed it on target.
Put it on target, but there was a Manchester United player in the way who was offside. Yeah. And it touched him before going in, which meant the goal was disallowed.
You must have been, if you were a United fan, you would have been spewing with that one, hey?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've never seen that before, where players accidentally hit someone on the goal line.
No, I don't think so.
I've seen players offside accidentally steal goals, not where they've accidentally kicked it into someone.
There's that
who can't avoid it.
Ronaldo one where with Nani, who but I think Nani actually deliberately put that one in.
Yeah,
I don't think
who do you reckon's at fault? Because Xerxes dives in to try to finish off the ball at first, and he's onside. But then after he's dived in and Garnacho shoots it, he becomes offside. Should have Garnacho missed him, or should have Xerxes done more to get out the way?
I just think it's unfortunate for both players.
Yeah, I think that's the fair way to look at it.
I think it's just a really unlucky incident. Garnacho did everything he had to do. He put the ball on target. It was going in. And Xerxes just happened to be in the way. And it would have been harsh to say he should have got out of the way.
Yeah.
He was getting in the spot for the original tap in, and then the ball went to Garnacho instead. and his momentum carried him forward.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like,
it's really hard to pin it on either player. It's just an unfortunate situation.
It is almost one of those where you're like, in the spirit of the game, maybe they should just let that goal stand. Like Xerxes hasn't interfered the play, like the ball was going in.
I kind of agree, but I mean they can't actually.
No, they can't do it.
Yeah.
Like the laws of the game.
But if you're refereeing like 11 aside at Curtin Stadium or whatever, and you notice it, maybe you'd be like, oh, just
let that one go.
let it slide.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Man United did earn the goal really, but they're the breaks, and it meant that Brighton got the win.
I wanted to talk a bit about the formation United have been going with again, like with that like 4-2-4 with 2 false nines, like Fernandes and Mount. I think they did a similar thing in the cup final against Man City where they played with a false 9, and not without like a real traditional number 9. And you were saying like they were pressing much better. Do you think that kind of helps their pressing, playing in that way?
Yeah, definitely. I think this game they kind of realised that when Mount's like playing as like a second false 9, like that in that centre forward position with Fernandes, that they can get in each other's way a bit. So Mount was a bit deeper this time, playing a bit closer to midfield. But then when the opposition got the ball, he would become part of their front 4 that was in defence. So they'd kind of defend with 4 defenders, 2 midfielders and 4 attackers. But then when they're attacking, Mount wouldn't play as much of an attacker. He'd be a bit deeper in midfield.
Yeah.
And it's funny watching Fernandes interpret the centre forward position, because you expect him to come really deep, but he just goes everywhere. Like especially to the left wing, he'll be next to the offside. He'll be next to the linesman, because he just likes to roam wherever. He'll be that far to the left. But yeah, I like the idea of it. Their pressing structure's better. Fernandes, I know after the first game, had the most expected goals for the first week. So he was getting the positions, he just wasn't scoring them, and normally he does put them away. But there has been, I guess, a bit of lack of goals for United so far. So
do they need a presence in the box?
Maybe someone who's more used to taking those centre forward type chances, because Fernandes is Fernandes, I guess I should say, is a good finisher from outside the box, and those kind of other positions that are a bit more wide. But when it's like a 1-on-1, he's not as used to getting those situations as a Højlund.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll finish better with him in the side, but it's something that I'm willing to experiment. If I was a Man United fan, I'd be hoping that they continue to experiment with this for a little while longer and just see where it leads to.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about Brighton then. 2 wins from 2. How do you think they're playing differently under Hurzeler? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Not sure.
Let's call it Hurzeler. Yeah. It's how they were different from De Zerbi's Brighton.
Well, I think that they're a little bit more willing, because it's still a very possession-based style, but it's not the same. We have to pass through, doing this short pass into the midfield, then out wide, then short pass here, short pass there. Like they're a tiny bit more flexible.
Yeah.
With being able to play long. Like the first half, they weren't passing the ball through Man United's press overly well, but they weren't getting destroyed still, which probably wouldn't have happened under De Zerbi. That if that part of their game went out the window, then it could have been trouble. Like there's a famous Ancelotti quote maybe not famous, but there's an Ancelotti quote where he's playing against De Zerbi's Shakhtar team, and he says, just don't press them.
Yeah.
And that was his team talk, and they won 4-0. And it was that was kind of the thing about De Zerbi, was towards the end, there probably wasn't enough flexibility to play long balls if a team doesn't press or pick up other advantages, whereas this Brighton team is a bit more flexible. But I think this year, stylistically, the attack's a lot more fun as well. You got Danny Welbeck, who's we were talking about, pressing really well, also links up with play well. Gerard Pedro's playing a bit deeper as a bit of a number 10 who's a really classy player on the ball.
Yeah.
And then you've got Mitoma on one wing, who's one of the most fun dribblers to watch in the Premier League. who did a thesis on dribbling.
He kind of went missing a little bit. Oh, there we go. The lights have gone off. I mentioned it last week and it didn't happen, but
and then you forgot to this week.
yeah, I
and
forgot, and now of course it happens. But yeah, well, if you didn't see last week's episode, I said that the
on
lights,
YouTube,
the lights are bound to go off, and well, they have now. But anyway, you can carry on.
Yeah. So Mitoma's
Mitoma. I don't know.
Mitoma. Yeah. Yeah. So he's really fun on one wing, and then on the other wing, Minter, who was actually from Newcastle, he's a really exciting prospect that Newcastle wanted to keep, but due to profit sustainability rules, they had to sell him a bit cheaper. So people saying he's a bit raw, but he got an assist in the first game. He looked really threatening in this game as well. He's a really fun dribbler as well. That's a bit faster than Mitoma, but probably is a little bit less developed strength-wise. So he still needs to grow on his body. He's about 19. So it's a really fun attack, I'd say.
I don't know. There's only been 2 games played, but maybe would you reassess how your predictions for Brighton? Do you think they could do a bit better than you expected?
Yeah, I think I had them pretty low because they finished the last season not too great under De Zerbi. He wasn't probably managing the team as well as he should have. And now I think they're a good chance of European football, but I'm not sold. It's 2 games, so we got to wait. We got to wait still.
Yeah.
What do you think? Thoughts on Brighton?
Thoughts on Brighton? I love Brighton. I'm such a Brighton fan at heart. Like if Spurs aren't, if there were Spurs didn't exist, I think I'd be a Brighton fan. I think I have. Well, I did. I have a Brighton membership.
Oh, that's right. No, tell that story. Go on.
Have I told it before or not?
I don't
even
think
remember.
so.
Imagine if I had. Oh, that would be embarrassing. But yeah, my dad and I went over to the UK to watch Spurs play, and we were specifically to see their new stadium because it was like 2019, I think 2020, and we had a bit of a horror show. The one game at the new stadium we saw, they lost 7-2 to Bayern Munich, which was the worst home defeat in history. And then we went to the away match against Brighton, but we couldn't. The only way to get tickets was through Brighton membership. So Dad signed us up for Brighton membership, and we sat with the home fans, the Brighton home fans, wearing our Brighton scarves and pretending we're not Spurs supporters. And that was another terrible game for Pochettino. This was like during a run before he got sacked. Like they were playing awful. They lost 3-0 to Brighton, and I was just like, every time Brighton scored, Dad and I just had to like politely clap and like stand up and pretend to be excited. Internally,
I don't think I could do that.
No,
I don't think I could.
To see your own team just getting battered.
I don't think I have the strength. Do you know what I'd find harder is if Liverpool were playing and Liverpool scored, and I had to just sit there and be like, damn.
God damn it. Yeah, that's very true. Maybe it worked out well because if Spurs scored, I might not have been able to contain myself. Might have got myself chucked out of the stadium. But there you go. Brighton fans are lovely. Yeah. Yeah, I like them. It'd be interesting to see if it seems like every time they bring in a new manager that they have equally good success. Like when Potter left, it was like, who's going to replace Potter? And then De Zerbi came. Now, similar kind of thing with Hurstler.
And only 31.
Yeah.
I think he was like 3 or 4 when James Milner made his debut, who started for him.
No, that's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
He's been around a while, James Milner. All right, let's talk about Villa versus Arsenal then.
Yes.
2-0 win for Arsenal. Pretty like massive away result considering they lost both games to Villa last season. Goals from Trossard and Partey. As like Lucas mentioned when he was on the pod a few weeks ago, like Arsenal are very like strong combinations down that right flank with like Ben White overlapping Saka, and then like him sometimes not necessarily getting the ball but creating space, and then Odegaard comes inside, creates space that way. And I just kind of noticed that was really influential in Arsenal's first goal anyway. And also I think their best chance in the first half was when Saka got down the right-hand side and like whipped a shot into the far corner, which Martinez saved. But it's kind of like those overlaps on the right seem to be like their most dangerous form of attack. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it also helps, as we mentioned earlier, that Luca Digne is probably not the strongest defender for Aston Villa, but I guess it's also, it's just so damaging with having Saka that if he comes onto his left foot, then he's very dangerous and he could score like he did against Wolves. And then if you force him to the byline and go, okay, now try crossing your right, well, he can still pick out Trossard like he did against Aston Villa. And it's just that double threat that he's got. Go one way or the other, you're kind of damned. Yeah. So I guess there's that makes it so damaging down that right side. But there was something else that Lucas mentioned that I noticed in this game. If you don't mind, he mentioned that Urian Timber was playing as a 6 for a defensive midfielder, for the under-23s or the under-21s, I think it is now. And Urian Timber would start at left back for Arsenal, but then as the play unfolded and Arsenal had the ball, he would move to defensive midfield position, and the other three would
they'd play with the back three.
They'd play with back three, and then Declan Rice would push further up the field. And I looked when I was watching the game, I was thinking, is this where you want Declan Rice? Do you want him up the field, or do you? Because he's probably one of the better shooters on the Arsenal side, and he's just that good. But do you not want his ball playing abilities a bit deeper and getting him involved a bit more there? Is what I was kind of wondering, and because he averages 62 passes attempted. Yeah, he only had 30 against Aston Villa.
Yeah, okay.
Because he was playing a bit further up the field, it's a bit harder to get him the ball.
A bit harder to get involved in the build-up, yeah.
And, I mean, I know Aston Villa are better opposition, but Arsenal still had 61% of the ball, which is about their average. Yeah, so true. He should still be getting about 62.
Touches, yeah.
And it had a bit of a knock-on effect that Ødegaard was about 10% below his average with passes attempted as well. Because I think Urian Timber, decent on the ball, Partey, okay, it's not really a strong suit. Yeah. Where they're probably not as good at playing the ball up the field. And Arsenal were the best team at getting more touches in the final third than the opposition last season. And they went okay against Arsenal. They had 151 passes attempted into the final third. But for reference, this week, City had 340.
Yeah.
So is this I'm wondering, is this how's this going to benefit Arsenal? But it also makes me think about, wow, Arteta thought about this last season, that he was planning, because he's playing, if he's setting up Timber to play as a 6 then, he was obviously thinking about re-evolving the team and getting, it kind of helps for more rotations, and then you're harder to defend against the more you move. And there was some things that I saw even further up the field that Declan Rice would drop deep and then that would draw someone in, then Trossard could overlap on that left side. And it's just crazy to me how Guardiola and Arteta and
Arteta's just copying him.
These elite managers, but it's in a different way, I think.
With the John Stones who pushes into midfield and then they switch to a back three.
Yeah, but it's like it's not. But they haven't moved Rodri up to being a 10 like they have with Declan Rice.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a bit more of a emphasis on rotation at the front end of the field, whereas the City wingers stay wide. Yeah. Arsenal kind of using Rice to draw players in to come a bit deeper, and then the wingers can be played in behind a bit more.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. No, it is interesting. He's definitely very tactically adept manager, Arteta. What about, do you think they actually deserve to win this game? I mean, Watkins had 2 gilt-edged chances, massive chances, which somehow he missed. The first one, it was kind of like a tap in and he scuffed it wide, and the second one was an open header, which, to be fair, Raya's made an incredible save, reflex save.
He did, after being on the floor.
Yeah.
And the first one was off the good press by Aston Villa, and it was on Gabriel, and I was like, oh, is Gabriel got to keep his place? And he played fantastic after that. But, yeah, I think that which you kind of, I feel like you were insinuating with the question. I do think Aston Villa played a little bit better than Arsenal.
Yeah.
And Ollie Watkins did have those two, as you said, gilt-edged chances that he really should have put away. But they're the break. Sometimes you don't put those away and you lose. But what were your thoughts on the Ollie Watkins misses, particularly the second one, I suppose?
Yeah.
Do you think there was that much more he could have done?
No, I don't. Like, we were talking about this before we came in and started recording. Like, if you're a striker in that position, you see the goalkeepers on the floor, all you want to think about is just getting the ball on target and powering it in. You wouldn't certainly be thinking about Raya somehow springing off the floor and making a crazy save.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't deliberately be trying to glance the header into the corner or something, because it's more likely that you'll do that and the ball will go wide of the goal than it would actually go in the corner. So yeah, from there you just head it straight at the goal. And I just think it's unfortunate that Raya's made an amazing save. Yeah.
Because I mean, when a couple seasons ago, Ramsdale I think was in the PFA Team of the Year, and then he got replaced by Ryan. There was some reservations. Oh, is he good enough to be the keeper? Do you reckon he's dispelled those? They're all the way. Everyone thinks that he's a keeper that could lead them to a Premier League title.
I would say so. It was interesting when Arteta first brought in Raya last season, and he kind of in his press conferences was saying, "Oh no, we've just got two elite goalkeepers. We've got two number ones, basically," which was in retrospect was kind of not true, because he persisted with Raya pretty much every game, and Ramsdale barely got a look in. And it seems now that Ramsdale's been fed up with that and wants to transfer, which is fair enough because he's a top quality player. So yeah, I think Raya has proved himself. He had some shaky moments at the start of last season, but I think he's really kind of put those doubts to bed. He looks like a pretty great goalkeeper. Yeah. Would you agree? Yeah. Yeah,
I really liked him in his Brentford days. I rated him really highly, mainly because he made one really good save on Nicolas Pepe on the first day of the season. Then I looked for everything good he did, and I was like, oh, the stats say this guy's good. I saw him make that one good save. I think of him really highly now, and so I like seeing Raya do well.
Yeah. Do you think, does this performance change anything, any way you think about Aston Villa, or you still think they're a pretty good team judging by this performance? Yeah.
I definitely haven't lost any confidence in Aston Villa.
That's the question I was trying to ask.
It's gonna be interesting when they have European football, and if they get injuries. Like, I think it's gonna be January we're gonna find out about Aston Villa, how good they really are. Because we could see a Newcastle situation where they get a bunch of injuries and they can't cope. Yeah. I will say that new guy, Rodgers, looks really good. He looks like a quality player that I didn't expect. I would have brought him in fantasy if I knew he was going to be that good, but yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how expensive he is on fantasy. I didn't even clock that.
I think he's a cheap one.
Oh man, missed out. Yeah. Went with Elliott instead.
That was my bad.
What is it about Man City and Arsenal and this Rodri goal that they score? When I say Rodri goal, you know what I mean. Like, ball goes out wide and then it's cut back to the edge of the box, and the holding midfielder just whips it into the corner or hammers it in, or as Rodri likes to do, he more usually finesses it in, doesn't he?
And Thomas Partey
scored this exact same goal against Villa. Yeah,
it's a good question you ask. I wonder if it's because they both control the game so much that that's one of the only ways they feel they can manipulate players being open is through. With City, it makes a bit more sense that Haaland's kind of pushing the defence back really close to the goal because he plays really close to goal, so the defence follows him, and then it makes sense that there's a bit more space behind for there to be a cutback to Rodri to score. But it happening with Arsenal as well. I don't know if I need to see it a few. I know Arsenal do like cutbacks. That is something that Arteta likes.
I think Odegaard finds himself in that position.
That's
quite
true.
often.
He does. Yeah. No. Now that you say Odegaard, maybe. It's just the way that they control the game. That there's too many players in the box. That they have to try.
It's like it might be the result of the opposition sitting so deep that's kind of where the only space is on the edge of the penalty area. So the ball kind of naturally goes to where the open space is.
That's what I'm guessing, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it almost seems like it's a deliberate kind of tactic which they use.
Yeah, well, I guess it was, particularly with City and Arsenal as well, was what you're saying. It's something that Arteta and Guardiola would identify. They would find they speak of game like chess, that they can kind of pick what the opposition's going to do. So it's getting your team prepared for the situations that they're going to be put in.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised at all if it is
something they work on. Yeah. And I guess the other talking point is Trossard and Martinelli. Martinelli started the game, and listening to Arsenal fans online, it seems like he's probably the one player or the one weakness in the squad they kind of perceive. And Trossard, it only took Trossard, I think, 2 minutes off the bench to make an impact and score. Do you think they should be starting Trossard instead of him?
It's interesting because I think that Martinelli has a higher ceiling than Trossard. Trossard's a very good goal scorer, and I think he actually scores a lot more when he's coming off the bench, which is interesting.
Yeah.
He's a very good finisher, but I think Martinelli can be so dangerous with the ball at his feet, dribbling past players, that if Arsenal are to get, 95 points, it's going to be with Martinelli, not Trossard.
Yeah, okay.
But I think Trossard's a more stable option, that he will produce goals if you persist with him, whereas Martinelli might be a bit more streaky with his goals and isn't as reliable as what a Trossard is. So I guess it's up to Arteta to kind of consider. But I think Trossard's best as that fourth option.
He's kind of like the Shaqiri when Liverpool had like a
Shaqiri,
front
I like
three.
that.
Yeah,
he's a bit better than Shaqiri,
yeah.
I will admit, but Shaqiri did help lead us to a 4-0 win over Barcelona, and Trossard hasn't done that. So.
Yeah, it's funny, like Trossard doesn't have like blistering pace, or he's not like amazingly good on the dribble, whereas like Martinelli does have those things, and he looks like on the eye test, Martinelli looks like the better player, but then Trossard seems to be having more of an impact just with the goals and the assists.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and there's always that balancing between goals and
flair, I suppose.
Flair, yeah. But I mean, would you rather have Traore or Haaland at the end of the day?
Yeah.
But shout out to our boy Traore. He did dribble inside and played for an assist. So
maybe he should be giving a shout out to the podcast.
He must have been listening.
He must have been listening. Never seen him con inside before.
Yeah, and he played him in. It was beautiful. I was expecting him to run down the byline and dribble out of play, or try
chip across
in, and the goalie catches it. But no, not to be.
Not to be. Yeah, it's a good sign for it. Well, we did say that there's still a chance he can make it.
I'd like to see him make it.
Maybe this is the start of his journey to the top.
And he starts saying in interviews that
he
shout out
to the podcast.
Numbers and Narratives podcast.
That's what turned his career around. Yeah. All right, let's move on to Wolves and Chelsea. Did you see the Noni Madueke post on Instagram before this match?
Yes, so funny.
Yes, so good.
It has to be the narrative of the game.
It does, yeah. We couldn't be called Numbers and Narratives and not mention it. So basically, Madueke, I think that's how you say his name. Madueke. That sounds better. Madueke, Chelsea winger, posted on Instagram before the match. I think it was meant to be like a private story or something, and it ended up going on his public account. And he said, like, everything about this place is shit, and he's referring to Wolves.
Ezra, that's 3 weeks in a row you swore.
Yeah, I think I've already said shit before that time. Yeah, all right. 3 weeks in a row, we'll keep the record going. Yeah, he said everything about this place is shit. He's referring to Wolves, or Wolverhampton, the town. And apparently during this whole game, the Wolves fans were just giving him, I nearly said shit again, where dare I go. Just like booing him every time he got the ball, giving him a hard time. And then he scored a second half hat-trick in 14 minutes. Like, this is going to be one of the biggest like shithousery moments in the Premier League.
It is. There might be competition for more player Jamie Vardy.
Yeah.
For the best player at making a mockery of opposition. So,
Yep.
But it was a really fun game. I think you might have missed it, but the first half Wolves were well on top, had a couple of offside goals, and they managed to make it 2-2. Cole Palmer scored a really good chip goal, a couple set piece goals. One of Wolves was really nice play. Nori did really well, dribbled past a bunch of people for Wolves, and then playing Larson, but then he got exposed a bit defensively. But I don't know how much of it you saw, but would you be surprised if I said that Wolves actually won the expected goals count?
I'm not surprised because I wrote it down on my laptop. I thought it was. I did check it. I was like, I was curious to see whether Chelsea played as well as the scoreline suggests. And yeah, maybe I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question because I didn't watch the game. But judging by XG, it looks like maybe they were a bit fortunate.
Well, if you believe in XG, Noni Madueke over the past 365 days is 3 times as good as XG suggests.
Yeah, okay.
If Erling Haaland managed to do that for a whole Premier League season, you'd expect him to score 80 goals without penalties.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the XG got it wrong for this game, and Chelsea actually did play better.
That's a first. I've never seen you diss the XG before. Wow. Usually you like defend that shit to your death.
Yeah, look, I like XG, but over a one-game basis, it can be a bit inaccurate.
Yeah.
And I think from what I saw that they gave Madueke 0.6 XG over the whole game. And he scored the exact same goal 3 times.
Yeah, he did. I did think that. I was like, all those chances seemed like pretty high-quality chances as well.
Yeah, and so
we should mention Palmer as well. We got 3 assists.
3 assists. Yeah, it was an interesting one because it was partly because Wolverhampton's rest defence was really bad, and rest defence is essentially when you are in possession of the ball, how do you look defensively if you lose the ball? If there's a turnover, how exposed is your defence? Yeah. And it was pretty much that Wolves had a bad rest defence, and one of the times Chelsea just played a free kick fast and they got a bit exposed. And Gary O'Neill, the Wolves manager, normally is quite good defensively, and he was a bit worried about Chelsea playing it through the middle because Maresca's known for loving the middle, so he made his whole team play really narrow. But that just meant that they were so narrow that Palmer could just play it wider than the fullback to Madueke, and he'd still be very close to goal when he had his shot. And it led to him scoring the exact same goal 3 times, essentially. Yeah. And, yeah, as you're saying, that they looked like they were pretty decent chances. So I think if he was able to convert the same chance, not once, not twice, Lightning doesn't strike 3 times.
Yeah, it's clearly a good chance.
Expected goals got it wrong.
I would say that's probably true.
So I do think that Chelsea deserved the win, but it was also a bit end to end, which is not
they
what
didn't
Maresca.
have a lot of. Yeah, I was going to say Maresca likes a controlled game, and this was kind of anything but controlled, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was really crazy up and down. I mean, one of the Palmer chip goal was Sanchez just booting it long and Jackson kicking it over a defender's head, and Palmer chips it like that. That's not control.
No, that Palmer goal was insane, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that only Palmer could have scored that for them. But like when the chance came to him, I never thought he was going to miss it. He's just that good on the ball.
Yeah, he is. It was like a half volley from how far out was he? I don't know.
35, 40 yards. Yeah, not that I know what a yard is.
Sounds about right. I only know yards from like FIFA when you get a free kick and it tells you how many yards out you are. It'll be like 35. But yeah, it's about 35.
You reckon I'm right?
Yeah, I would have said 35, 40. I reckon that's bang on. Lobbed the keeper and it was like, wow. Insane goal. He's such a good player. He did play as a number 10 this game, as opposed to out right where he's played previously. I think he played the first match out on the right. Do you think that suits him better?
Well, I think it suits Maresca better because Maresca wasn't playing Sterling because Sterling's more of an inside forward type winger rather than stay out wide.
Yeah.
Whereas Madueke and Mudryk, who started this game, are very stay out wide wingers. And that's good for Maresca because it means that he's able to, if those players don't defend narrow, and they follow those wingers out wide, there's more space in the middle for him to exploit, which is what he likes.
Yeah.
Alternatively, if teams try to defend narrow, then perhaps you can get Madueke or Mudryk in those situations where they can score a hat-trick in 14 minutes because the opposition's defended too narrow.
Yeah.
So I think Palmer, because he likes to come in central and drop deep and move everywhere, a bit like Fernandes does as a centre forward, it makes a bit more sense for him being a 10. Although there's an argument to be made that he contributed to that transitional game style because he's not very good defensively.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that hard.
Yeah. And I think Lavia was injured for this game, so he went with Caicedo and Fernandes as the two holding, or Fernandes more of like a box-to-box. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens when Lavia's back fit, what midfield he'll pick. You would imagine Neto would probably take Mudryk out.
You'd
take
expect
Mudryk's
so.
spot on
Neto
the left
is
side.
a better player, and he got that assist.
He did for Felix.
For Joao Felix, so...
That was a good goal as well. They scored great goals. That one probably was, like, the XG would have been quite low, you would have thought, but...
Yeah, but he put a top in.
Top ends, yeah. What proved the price, proved the transfer, yeah.
And it's another one of those top of the box cutback type goals, isn't it?
Yeah. Been seeing a lot of them. Yeah, well, what do you think would be Chelsea's best midfield three then, with everyone fit and available?
It's a good question, because if we're going for the best 11 on paper, then Enzo Fernandez probably gets in.
Yeah.
But to complement the strengths of Palmer, you probably need to have Lavia with Caicedo, or someone who's probably a little bit more defensive than Enzo Fernandez, who's solid defensively, but it's not his forte.
No.
Whereas Caicedo and Lavia, it's more their bread and butter. They can help alleviate the
defensive
responsibilities.
Work
for Palmer.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, anything else to say about that game?
Fun game.
Let's do some more fun games. And it's kind of, I don't know, people kind of ruled Chelsea out not ruled them out, but definitely ruled them out for the title. Myself, I kind of ruled them out for top four. I just didn't think that would be that consistent, but maybe they've started to prove me wrong.
Yeah, well, the Opta analyst had them in the top four, so the supercomputer, they believe in Chelsea, and I believe in the supercomputer.
Let's talk a bit about Man United versus Liverpool next week then. Standout fixture. What do they call that derby again? Is it called anything? No.
Can't remember.
Man United Liverpool, that's what it's called. Yeah.
It's not
the
like rivalry.
It's not like in AFL where they've got a name for every rivalry.
Yeah, and some of the names are pretty poor, like the Q Clash. It's not.
The Showdown? What?
Showdown's sick.
Is it?
I love the name
really?
Showdown. You don't like the Showdown?
Nah. Is that? Yeah, I don't know. It just is like, really? It's so cringe. Maybe I'm in the minority there. But yeah, let's talk about Man United and Liverpool. Liverpool won again on the weekend, beat Brentford 2-0. That was a pretty comfortable win, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite comprehensive, and it was a funny. You still saw a little bit of the Klopp essence that they scored from a Brentford corner. Brentford are very aggressive with their corners, so their rest defence wasn't very good there. Yeah. But it never really is for corners because they just rely on scoring from their set pieces, and they generally do a good job. And Liverpool able to counter-attack off that and score a goal, which was nice to see the Klopp style. But we also saw some really good passing passages as well. And it's actually meant that Liverpool this season have 6 players in the top 10 for attacking pass sequences. And that means attacking pass sequences, essentially, I would be involved in one. If I made a tackle on a player and then pass to someone, they pass to someone, they pass to you, you score.
Yeah.
Everyone involved in that chain for that led to your shot is a part of the attacking sequence.
Yeah.
So if Liverpool having 6 players in the top 10 this season, they have had the most shots, but them having that many different players just goes to show how many people are getting involved in the passing combinations. Liverpool are actually playing more long balls than what they were last season at this point. But they still have that flexibility to go either way, where they'll get everyone involved, pass here, pass there, but also Schlott's not afraid to let the team go long. So that was interesting to see from Liverpool. And it'll be interesting to see if Manchester United put in a good press, how they try to play against Man United. Will they try to go for those passing sequences?
Or they go long.
Or they go long and just try catch the defence.
It's at Old Trafford, isn't it? So that makes a bit of a difference.
It is at Old Trafford.
You'd expect Man United to press then at home. How do you think that will unfold?
If Mount's playing, it makes a difference for them. And that's only 50% because I have a Mason Mount man crush. But I think it generally does make a difference. If he's not there, then I think Liverpool will be able to do the short passes around them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think Liverpool's best chances of scoring will be from turnover, because when Manchester United are in their rest defence and they've got the ball, Diego Dalot, a bit like Urin Timber and City, that he's been coming into midfield and playing as a 6. If Liverpool are able to turn the ball over and then pass the ball to Salah, and then he's coming up against Maguire or Martinez, he's had a very good time coming up against both of those players one-on-one.
He'll torch them,
He should do very well against them. And then from a Man United perspective, they're probably hoping Rashford finds some form and can get going against Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's caused a lot of problems for him in the past.
Yeah, that would be a good matchup on both flanks then,
What are you looking for in the game? What is there any matchups that excite you or anything that you're interested to see?
I'm interested to see how Man United cope with the intensity Liverpool will likely bring to the game. Like, we've seen Man United crumble against Liverpool quite a few times. There was the 7-0 game.
And
is there a 4-0 as well in there?
5-0.
Yeah.
5-0.
So Man United aren't strangers to getting just smashed by Liverpool.
We technically had 3 draws last season, and one of those draws was an FA Cup game where United won in extra
That is
time.
true. That FA Cup crazy game, but Liverpool should have won that.
Liverpool should have won that. And that was chaotic. I don't think we'll see the same chaotic nature. But it's good that you brought up Liverpool's pressing in that, because last season Liverpool were 10th for tackles. We're only 2 games in and Liverpool played weaker opposition, so they probably had a bit more of the ball than they'd expect. Right now they're last for tackles. So I wonder if this game will be interesting to see if we ramp up the pressing when we don't have the ball as much, or if we're still going to be a little bit more passive under Schlott. Because he's known to be a fan of pressing, but maybe not to the same extent as Klopp.
Well, he's adaptable, like you said. Like he takes into consideration the opposition in his strategy, which Klopp didn't do so much.
He was a bit more dogmatic. I think he liked to tinker more than change things completely. And I think Man United, that they've tried to play at the back, and I think that if you do press them a bit, then they will just try to play the ball long eventually, and you can catch them out.
Yeah, and especially if they're playing Mount and Fernandes as false nines, playing long's not going to work. The ball's just going to come straight back.
Yeah, they haven't got that real aerial target. Especially, and then you've got on the wings Diallo and Rashford. And Rashford maybe has a little bit more height, but he's not someone that really is that physical and wants that aerial challenges.
Yeah, so I could see that as a pattern of players. Liverpool press from the front. Man United end up having to go long because they can't play out, and then the ball just keeps coming back, and they might get overwhelmed.
I would love that.
Yeah, we'll see if that unfolds or not. And it'll also be interesting to see if he sticks with the double false 9, Ten Hag, or he plays Xerxes through the middle, or I don't know how far off Højlund is. He's still injured. I'm not sure.
I think he's at least back soon.
Yeah.
But who do you think's going to win? What's your score
I think
prediction?
Liverpool will beat them quite easily.
Easily?
Yeah, I do.
You're right.
I've never been impressed by Man United under Ten Hag. I'll say 3-1 Liverpool, but fairly comfortable.
I'll say 1-1, because then if we draw, I'm happy, and because I'm right, and if we win, I'm even happier.
Yeah.
But no, I think United are playing all right.
Yep.
And Liverpool, I'm not certain on yet. We're playing well, but it's
You
2
haven't
games
played
under
anyone
slot.
yet. Yeah. Should be a good game. All right, let's wrap it up with some quick fire. Owen's forgotten his questions today, which is only fair.
It sounds unprofessional if you
It's
mention that.
only fair because I think I've forgotten the last week or maybe the week before that.
We alternate it well. It's
Yeah.
almost like a
It's almost like we plan it.
telepathic
Yeah.
communication.
So, Ezra will have them today, so I won't bother, or like, vice versa. And they're not very good questions, so don't get too excited by the whole thing. Number one, I feel like I know the answers to this, but are Brighton better than they were under De Zerbi?
Just last season or
After 2 games this year. Do you mean De Zerbi last season, or do you mean
De Zerbi as a whole?
De Zerbi as a whole?
No.
No. All right. Does shit stirring from players have a place in football?
Yes.
Will Spurs get hammered at St. James's Park again?
No.
This is too easy for you. I really hope you're right with that one. Do you think Trent Alexander-Arnold likes slot?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Do you not see the maybe I shouldn't bother with this because you meant to just give one-word answers. But did you see the footage of him like kind of looking pissed off with slot?
Yeah, but I think that just happens.
Just happens.
He was subbed off twice, so I can.
Is the quality of the Prem better than the quality at the Euros?
Yeah.
All right, that was too easy. I think
That was a bit easy.
I gotta
do better.
lift my game. It's unfortunate. 50 minutes. It's a good time for an episode. We've done well.
We have done well.
we
We got to talk about Freo. Matt really wanted me to talk about AFL at one stage, so
you got
they got mentioned. He's happy.
Quite a bit, probably over a minute of AFL.
Yeah,
not bad.
Adding to it right now
for a soccer podcast. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you all listening as always. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.